Hi, this is Paulo from Chupan Games, and today we will learn how to use the field kind table in the character sheet. Let's understand what we are trying to do. This is an extract of the Dungeon Master guide. It says basically that the Dungeon Master can choose a skill to be added for that particular ability check if he negotiates it with the player. The point is, this is the Dungeon Master decision. You already know that when the Dungeon Master needs to take a decision, you create a field for him to choose. But this field will have a skill for him to choose. But we don't have skills here in criteria. So how can we do that? I created this simple spreadsheet with all the skills here, and here it's a column saying what is the ability that skill kind of belongs to. And we will import this into the game and use it for the Dungeon Master to choose. So I file and download CSV, and it will go into the spreadsheets here, and it will be Google Skills 2024 CSV. Now we can go to the tables and import table. But this time we will create a new table. Google Skills, and the table is there. Now, you may notice that this ability field only have 6 options, the 6 abilities. When you have something like that, it's good practice to click here and change this field to a combo. Now, criteria will fill all the options here. You see that we don't have Constitution because there's no skill based on Constitution, so I will add here if in the future Wizards of the Coast want to create a skill Constitution based. Once I do this, I click Restructure Table and we are done. And now you can choose here with a combo instead of a simple text field. Now that we have created the skill table, it's time to put it on the sheet. We need to create a new section and we call it Skills. Now we need to add this to a new page. Okay, so we create a new page here. Skills, and add our skills section. Now all we have to do is to fill all fields here with the contents with the same name we have here. Okay, but since I am a lazy person, I created this button here, which creates a field for each row within a chosen table. So, you choose the table, and you choose a data type, which I will use Boolean, because in 5th edition 2024, you just choose or not a skill. You don't have ranks or anything like that, like in the older versions. So here you just have a skill or do not have a skill, or in fact have proficiency on that skill or not. So okay, it created for us. All fields are here. Let's test it. Now we have a skill page. Oh, all fields here. Now we can select it, the players can select it, and later we will learn how to use this into our ability check info. The book says that if you are proficient with a skill, you add your proficiency to that role, and the proficiency is tied to the character level, and the character level is calculated from how many levels in each class you have. But we don't have classes. Okay, let's create the classes table. When you look at the classes in the player's handbook, you see something like this. We will start with a minor number of columns or data fields, and we'll keep growing. So I will choose the hit point die and the saving throw proficiencies. At this point, we need only to know the total class level of the character in order to retrieve or to calculate its proficiency. So you go to table and create a new table and call class. We'll create a field, which is the same name, it's the class, and it will be a text. And we will create a data field, which will be the hit die per level, and it's an integer. And then we have the save and true proficiencies. Now, this is kind of a list of abilities, so it's more than one. What I will do is to create one field with text and create a list separated by commas, because in the future we will learn how to create operations on a table and create virtual fields using criteria parser. Now, Barbarian has strength and constitution as saving throw proficiencies. So I will put here strength, comma, com. Okay, now again, I will export this table. You need to click here sometimes to get these buttons working again. So I will export this table and fill it in Google Sheets. Now I am here in Google Sheets and I will import CSV file, classes, and I will create a new sheet, and here I will fill the rest. Now that I have created this simple table, I will again download CSV and classes, updated classes. Then I will import table and I will replace this because the table already exists. Classes, and here they are. Everything is here. Now, why creating a table is so important? Everybody knows, and it's no secret, that creating a rule is hard work, and not all people want to learn criteria and so etc, etc, etc. However, almost any person can fill a table, and it's simple, very simple, to add a new class here and start expanding your criteria rule just by adding a line in a table. If we use this wisely, we will have a great tool to expand our rule in the future with new classes, new weapons, new spells, new everything. So we will try to create as many tables as possible. And instead of hard coding the rules, we will try to use those fields in the table to return values for us. Now let's think for a moment what we want to do. Every character has a class, right? Maybe a character can have multiple classes, and more than that, it can have multiple levels on multiple classes. A character can have 3 levels of Barbarian and 1 level of Warlock. Why not? we in fact do not need a field called class. We need a list of groups of fields where we can put our class and our level for each class that we choose. How can we do that? It's simple. First we create a section, as always, and call it classes. All our classes will go into these sections. And now we have this little option called multiple items. I will click here and start creating fields. The first field will be the class. And I want here for the player or the user to choose one of the classes that is in the class table. So if we put another class in the class table, more and more classes will be added to the rule. To do that, we'll choose data type table, and you see that the table field appears here, and now you choose the class table. And that's all, almost, because we need also a field for the level. So I will create level here, and this is an integer, 1 level, 2 levels. So this is not the level of the character, this is the number of levels this character has in this class. Now, when using multiple items sections, you need to choose at least one field for description. I will choose the class to appear in the list. You will see how it's used in a moment. So I click here for class description, and now we will test it. We just need to add this for editing, and I will create another page, call it classes, and multiple items should have their own page. Okay, so here I have classes. Okay, now that we did this, it should be here. Let's load our Conorian. Conorian is here, and now we have skills and classes. Okay, we will add a new class. You will notice that these fields are now here. So I will choose a paladin, because Conorian is a paladin, and let's say that Conorian is level 2. It's a paladin level 2. If I want to add a level of, say, fighter or ranger, I will put another class here, choose ranger and 1 level of ranger. So now Conorian has 1 level of paladin and 2 levels of paladin and 1 level of ranger. If you want the level to be shown here also, it's simple. You just go to the level and also click in its description. Need to reload this, or let's save it. Conorian, yes, and reload it. It shows 2 classes of paladin and 1 class of ranger. Now it's time to choose skills. So I will choose 2 for the paladin and 3 for the ranger. For the paladin, I will get medicine and persuasion. And for the ranger, I will have survival, animal handling, and perhaps athletics. Now that we have classes, we can create an info and get our character level. Info here, character level. We will just loop, pass through all our classes and just sum all of them, all levels. First, I will click return value. It will be an integer, a number. Okay, it is the character level. Now I need a return, because I will return the character level. So I will have a return value here. And this will be the sum of every level that we have. Now, you already know how to get a field from a character sheet. You use the main stat. However, when you have a multiple item section, you have kind of multiple fields inside for each field, because you have one value for each line. So for instance, we have 1 for the ranger level and 2 for the paladin level. In this case, we need to return 3 here, okay? Because it's the sum of all levels. Now, to do operations on this kind of sections, we use a very interesting node called section operation. This do an operation, he will pass through all lines in a multiple section and do an operation. So I will choose a section here, is classes, and the operation, it will be the sum. Great. Now, what we will sum? We have 2 informations there. One is the class and the other is the level, and we want to sum the level. So, to access the field inside the section, we do not use the main stat, because this is a multiple section. If it was not a multiple section, we could access it with the main stat node here. But since this is a multiple section, we need to use the section stat. And we drag him here in the expression, and we give the section name here, and the field name will be level. Now, let's understand what this does. This section operation passes through all lines in that section. We have 2 lines there. One that says Paladin 2 levels and Ranger 1 level. And he will pass through all lines and he sum the values. But what value? The value that is connected to the expression. Since the expression is connected to the level, this node will sum all the levels in our class section, which is exactly what we want. Now, a final consideration before I end this class. This technique of using sections with multiple items can be used for inventory. For instance, here we could have a list of potions, a list of weapons, a list of shields, a list of whatever. For instance, some RPGs have tons, lots and lots of skills. And instead of having a single page with skills, suppose that we have 800 to choose from. You won't list 800 skills here. You will create a skill section, a multiple skill section, where the player will add the specific skill that he will use in this character sheet. It's kind of a personal taste. You can use pages to list several fields to choose from. And you can use other page to add and remove things that has a great list of options, but only about a few go into the character.